conspiracy and sex trafficking. Hess accused of inducing female victims and male sex workers into drugged-up, sometimes days-long sexual performances dubbed freak-offs. The indictment against him also alleges he coerced and abused women for years while using blackmail and shocking acts of violence to keep his victims in line. It refers obliquely to an attack on his former girlfriend, the R&B singer Cassie, that was captured on video. Read more. Sean Diddy Combs' arrest and indictment, a timeline of key events. Prosecutors wanted him jailed. His attorneys proposed that he be released on a $50 million bond to home detention with electronic monitoring. U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin Tarnowski sided with the government. Advertisement. Combs, 54, took a long swig from a water bottle, then was led out of court without handcuffs. As he walked out, he turned toward family members in the audience. "Mr. Combs is a fighter. Hess going to fight this to the end. Hess innocent," his lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, said after court. As a start, he said he would appeal the bail decision. The Bad Boy Records founder is accused of striking, punching and dragging women, throwing objects and kicking them and getting his personal assistants, security and household staff to help him hide it all. Not guilty, Combs told a court, standing to speak after listening to the allegations with his uncuffed hands folded in his lap. Federal prosecutors called him dangerous. Mr. Combs physically and sexually abused victims for decades. He used the vast resources of his company to facilitate his abuse and cover up his crimes. Simply put, he is a serial abuser and a serial obstructor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson told a court. She also said he had extensive and exhaustive history of obstruction of justice, including alleged bribery and witness intimidation. Agnifilo acknowledged Combs was not a perfect person, saying he had used drugs and had been in toxic relationships but was getting treatment and therapy. "The evidence in this case is extremely problematic," the attorney told the court. He maintained that the case stemmed from one long-term, consensual relationship that faltered amid infidelity. He didn't name the woman, but the details matched those of Combs' decade-long involvement with Cassie, whose legal name is Cassandra Ventura. The freak-offs, Agnifilo contended, were an expansion of that relationship, and not coercive. Is it sex trafficking? Not if everybody wants to be there, Agnifilo said, arguing that authorities were intruding on his client's private life. Prosecutors, however, said in court papers that they had interviewed more than 50 victims and witnesses and expect the number to grow. They said they would use financial, travel and billing records, electronic data and communications and videos of the freak-offs to prove their case. Combs nodded his head at times as his lawyer spoke and occasionally leaned over to converse with them when they were not. The impresario watched other parts of the proceeding expressionlessly, looking straight ahead. Combs was arrested late Monday in Manhattan, roughly 6 months after federal authorities conducting a sex trafficking investigation raided his luxurious homes in Los Angeles and Miami. A conviction on every charge in the indictment would require a mandatory 15 years in prison with the possibility of a life sentence. AP Audio, Sean Diddy Combs has been indicted on sex trafficking and racketeering charges. With reporters, while heading into court, Sean Diddy Combs' attorney Mark Agnifilo says they knew this day was coming. The indictment describes Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise that engaged or attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, drug offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery and obstruction of justice. Combs and his associates wielded his power and prestige to intimidate and lure women into his orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship, the indictment says. It says he then would use force, threats and coercion to get the women to engage with male sex workers in the freak-offs elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during and often recorded, creating dozens of videos. He sometimes arranged to fly the women in and ensured their participation by procuring and providing drugs, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support and using intimidation and violence, according to the indictment. The events could last for days, and Combs and victims would often receive 4 fluids to recover from the exertion and drug use, the indictment said. It said his employees facilitated freak-offs by arranging travel, booking hotel rooms, stocking them with such supplies as drugs and baby oil, scheduling the delivery of 4 fluids and cleaning the rooms afterward. During the searches of Combs' homes earlier this year, law enforcement seized narcotics, videos of the freak-offs and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, according to prosecutors. They said agents also seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, 2 of them, broken into parts, in his bedroom closet in Miami. Combs' lawyer said his client didn't own the guns at his house, noting that he employs a security company. The indictment portrays Combs as a violent man who choked and shoved people, hit and kicked victims and sometimes dragged them by their hair, causing injuries that often took days or weeks to heal. His employees and associates sometimes witnessed his violence and kept victims from leaving or tracked down those who tried, the indictment said. It alleges that Combs sometimes kept videos of victims engaging in sex acts and used the recordings as collateral to ensure the women's continued obedience and silence. He also exerted control over victims by promising career opportunities, providing and threatening to withhold financial support, dictating how they looked, monitoring their health records and controlling where they lived, according to the indictment. As the threat of criminal charges loomed, Combs and his associates pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, offering bribes and supplying false narratives of what happened, the indictment says. In a court filing, prosecutors accused Combs and an unidentified co-conspirator of kidnapping someone at gunpoint a few days before Christmas in 2011 in order to facilitate a break-in at another person's home. 2 weeks later, they wrote, Combs set fire to someone's vehicle by slicing open its convertible top and dropping in a Molotov cocktail. All of this, prosecutors allege, was happening behind the facade of Combs' global music, lifestyle and clothing business. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, has been indicted and will face justice, Manhattan-based U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said at a news conference Tuesday. Combs returned the key in June after Mayor Eric Adams requested it back. Combs was recognized as one of the most influential figures in hip-hop before a flood of allegations emerged over the past year. In November, Ventura filed a lawsuit saying he had beaten and raped her for years. She accused Combs of coercing her, and others, into unwanted sex in drug-fueled settings. The suit was settled in one day, but months later, CNN aired hotel security footage showing Combs punching and kicking Ventura and throwing her on a floor. After the video aired, Combs apologized, saying, "I was disgusted when I did it." The indictment refers to the attack, without naming Ventura, and says Combs tried to bribe a hotel security staffer to stay mum about it. Douglas Wigner, a lawyer for Ventura, declined to comment Tuesday. Combs and his attorneys denied similar allegations made by others in a string of lawsuits. The AP does not typically name people who say they have been sexually abused unless they come forward publicly, as Ventura did. After you're done editing, click on the Create Scene button in the top right corner to generate AI-generated scenes with relevant images. Do you have any questions or need help? Click on the chat icon in the bottom right corner to send us a message, and we'll get back to you.